The scream through the quiet street before anyone even saw the blood. Naomi Voss dropped her grocery bag, stumbled backward, and hit the pavement with one hand while the neighbor's dog clamped onto her forearm, hard enough to make her vision go white. The animal's growl was low, violent, relentless. Across the yard, sprinklers kept ticking like nothing was wrong. Titan, Titan, get back. Her neighbor Gareth Holloway came running from his driveway too late. By then, Naomi's skin was already torn, one bag of oranges rolling into the gutter, red mixing with orange under the afternoon sun. And what Gareth said next was the part she would never forget. He's never done that before. Not "are you okay?" Not "call an ambulance." Not even "I'm sorry." Just an excuse. By the time the paramedics arrived, half the neighborhood was outside pretending not to stare. Naomi was shaking on the curb, her arm wrapped in towels someone had brought from inside. Her 6-year-old daughter Elise stood frozen on the porch, crying so hard she couldn't breathe. That was the moment this stopped being just a dog bite. It became the day Naomi stopped feeling safe in her own home. Until that afternoon, the cul-de-sac in Riverside, California, had looked like the kind of place where nothing serious ever happened. Kids rode scooters in lazy circles. Retired couples watered roses. Delivery vans came and went. Naomi had lived there for 3 years, long enough to know which porch lights stayed on late, and which neighbors waved only when others were watching. Gareth Holloway lived 2 houses down. He was the kind of man people described as nice enough because they didn't know him well enough to say anything more honest. He kept mostly to himself, worked long hours, and owned a large mixed-breed dog named Titan. Naomi had noticed before that Titan was powerful, easily over 90 pounds, and often restless behind the low front gate. More than once, she had seen him lunge at passing dogs. Once he had barked so aggressively at Elise that Naomi crossed the street the next time they walked by. She mentioned it casually to Gareth a few months earlier. "You may want a better latch on that gate," she had said. He laughed. "He's all noise." The emergency room said otherwise. Naomi needed stitches, antibiotics, a tetanus shot, follow-up care, and weeks away from work at the dental office, where she handled patients and paperwork. But the physical injury was only part of it. Elise refused to play outside. Naomi started checking locks twice before bed. Even the sound of barking from another block made her body tense. At first, she tried to handle it quietly. She asked Gareth if he would cover the medical bills. She brought copies. She stayed calm. She gave him every chance to do the decent thing. He stared at the papers and leaned against his kitchen counter. "I'm not saying I won't help," he told her, "but these numbers are ridiculous. And honestly, you were right by my property line." Titan probably felt threatened. Naomi blinked. "Threatened? I was carrying groceries." "I'm just saying there are 2 sides." That was when she understood this was not going to end with an apology. A week later, Gareth stopped answering her texts, so Naomi called a lawyer. Attorney Tessa Vale had the kind of office that made people tell the truth faster than they planned to. Nothing flashy, just order, sharp attention, and the sense that excuses would not survive long there. Tessa listened without interrupting as Naomi described the attack, the surgery consult, Elise's nightmares, Gareth's refusal to pay, and the quiet humiliation of being treated like she might somehow be at fault. When Naomi finished, Tessa folded her hands. "In California," she said, "dog bite cases are taken seriously. If the dog bit you in a public place, or while you were lawfully on private property, the owner can be held responsible. The fight usually isn't over, whether it happened. The fight is over damages, credibility, and how hard the defense wants to push back." Naomi sat very still. "So I'm not overreacting." Tessa's voice was calm. "No, you were injured. And now he's refusing responsibility. That's different." The lawsuit was filed in Riverside County Superior Court. Gareth's response came fast and aggressive. His attorney argued that Titan was not known to be dangerous, that Naomi may have startled the dog, and that her emotional distress claims were exaggerated. It was the kind of legal strategy that sounded cold on paper, and even colder in person. Narrow the injury, question the fear, reduce the human being to a stack of disputed receipts. But lawsuits have a way of dragging hidden attitudes into daylight. During discovery, Tessa obtained animal control records showing that Titan had not bitten anyone before. But there had been prior complaints about the dog rushing the fence and behaving aggressively toward pedestrians and other animals. Not enough to prove a previous bite. Enough to make Gareth's casual confidence look reckless. Then came Gareth's deposition. Under oath, in a conference room with a court reporter typing every word, he tried to stay relaxed. He said he didn't recall certain complaints. He said Naomi had always seemed dramatic. He said the incident was unfortunate, but insisted Titan was a good dog. Tessa waited until he settled into that certainty. "Mr. Holloway," she said, sliding a photo across the table, "is this the gate to your front yard?" "Yes." "And is that the latch your dog pushed through on the day of the bite?" "I don't know that he pushed through it." "You replaced it 2 days later, correct?" He hesitated. "I upgraded it. After the attack." His lawyer objected, but the damage was already visible on Gareth's face. By the time the case reached trial, Naomi had become the kind of witness juries remember. Not polished, not theatrical, just painfully real. She testified about the pain, the infection scare, the scar tissue, the missed work, and the night Elise woke up crying because she dreamed Titan had gotten inside the house. The courtroom was silent when Tessa asked her the final question. What changed most after that day? Naomi swallowed. Home stopped feeling like home. Gareth testified after her. He wore a navy suit and spoke with measured frustration, as if he were the one being wronged by the inconvenience of consequences. He said Titan had been provoked by sudden movement. He said Naomi was close to the property. He said he felt terrible, but not legally responsible for every unfortunate thing an animal does. That sentence landed badly. Tessa rose for cross-examination. "Mr. Holloway, did Miss Voss step onto your property before she was bitten?" "No." "So she was in the street?" "Yes, but..." "And your dog reached her there?" "Yes." Tessa let the answer settle. "You told this jury Titan had never done this before. In your mind, does that mean the first victim should absorb the cost?" Gareth's jaw tightened. "That's not what I said, but that's what you did, isn't it?" No one moved, not the judge, not the jury, not even Gareth. When closing arguments began, Tessa did not overreach. She did not demonize the dog. She did not ask the jury to be angry. She asked them to be fair. "This case is not about punishing a pet," she said. "It is about responsibility. A woman walking home with groceries on her own street was bitten badly enough to need medical care, lose income, and live with fear in front of her child. The defense wants you to believe that because there was no prior bite, there should be no full accountability. But our law does not work that way, and common decency should not either." Gareth's attorney argued that Naomi's suffering had been overstated and that any damages should be minimal. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. When they returned, Naomi could hear her own heartbeat. The foreperson stood. They found in her favor. They awarded medical expenses, lost wages, and compensation for pain, suffering, and emotional harm. Not an outrageous number, not cinematic millions. Something more powerful than that. An amount serious enough to be called justice, precise enough to feel real. Outside the courthouse, cameras were nowhere to be found. There was no crowd, no applause, just late afternoon light on the concrete steps and a wind that finally felt cooler than the one she remembered from the day of the bite. Elise reached for Naomi's uninjured hand. Tessa stood beside them, quiet for a moment. "You did the hard part," she said. Naomi looked back at the courthouse doors. Gareth had not come out yet. "I didn't sue because I wanted revenge," she said softly. "I sued because he wanted me to carry what his choices caused." That night, for the first time in months, Elise asked if they could walk to the corner mailbox together. Naomi hesitated. Then she smiled. "Yeah," she said. "We can do that." And maybe that was the real verdict. Not the money, not the paperwork, not even the win. It was the return of something Gareth's denial had tried to take from her. The right to feel safe in her own life again. Because the final lesson was bigger than one street in California. Under California Civil Code Section 3342, When a dog bites someone in a public place, or when that person is lawfully on private property, the owner can be liable even if the dog had never bitten anyone before. The law is built on a simple idea: innocent people should not have to absorb the cost of preventable harm, just because the danger had not drawn blood before. And sometimes the strongest form of justice is not dramatic at all. It is simply this: the person who caused the damage no longer gets to pretend it belongs to someone else.